Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to have a tiny bit of silly content. By silly content, I mean, do we all recall the video I made, I can't remember how long ago, but recently, about that woman who got rejected by her matchmaker? This woman who's looking for a partner seems to have some very intense parameters and talks about her dating life on TikTok. Do we recall? If you don't, I'll link the video down below. Regardless, you don't really need a frame of reference to understand this video because I already told you everything you need to know. So this woman, I believe her name is Danielle. I'm horrible with names, apologies. She has been documenting her life in the dating world, whether it's her being rejected, her doing the rejecting, finding matchmakers, which I saw in one of her more recent TikToks. She has found a matchmaker, but there are some TikToks that I want to discuss because I'm gonna say wow. Wow. And just to be clear, I'm not positing myself as the dating police. I've only ever dated one person. I don't have crazy dating stories, thank God. So I don't know what the kids are doing these days, how it all works. I don't know any of that. I'm just a person with a brain reacting to what is being shown. Okay, so let's start with this one.
This is how you do not plan a freaking date. You are gonna get rejected. I am here gonna show you with receipts. I pulled this one from the archive. Let's get into it. I had been on one date with this man and I got right in that group chat after the first date telling the girlies, I think this guy is great. I had such a nice time with him. We had so much fun. We had a lot in common. I could not wait to go on a second date with him. A week or so later, he finally texts me and is like, hey, are you free Sunday for brunch? I'm like, yeah, great. That Saturday night, he sends me this text, are you still up for brunch?
I'm gonna stop right here for a second. Now, I know that for women, I'm just speaking for women, I don't know about men, there are some quote unquote rules that I've seen every so often about how certain women don't want to text men first, certain women wait to respond to men, blah, blah, blah. Like, those are self-imposed rules, but as a general notion, I also think once you're older, I would like to think that we don't live by those rules anymore, in the sense of, do you really have to wait for him to text you? Like when she says he finally texted me, do we really need to be doing this? For me, right after I went on my first date with my husband, I texted him to make sure he got home safe, and then I told him I had a good time, whatever. Who cares? Like, it's a text message. You are not confessing your undying love or doing some make or break shit. I'm not saying to like send them a fucking novel, but what's the big deal? I really don't understand, and it saves you so much time to not just be waiting around for someone. Anyway.
Yes, I'm still up for brunch. You're saying that 5 p.m. on Saturday, brunch assumingly would be Sunday noon 1. Yeah, what are you thinking? I could come your way if you know a good spot. Okay, let me do the heavy lifting for you, buddy. So I give him a list of these places and I add, not sure if any take a res, meaning, hey buddy, I'm giving you 3 options of places I'd like to go, but you are gonna have to do the footwork to determine whether or not they even require reservations. A lot of brunch places don't, or what the deal is. He says, oh, the Dutch eye. Not even sure what that means. Like, oh, is that a plan? No. So then that morning I get a text from him, howdy, how does 2 sound? I never heard back from him the night before, so what do I say?
This is where I start to get not heated, but I do think this is a lot of tomfoolery, because as someone who tries to not get in my own way as much as I can, it kills me to see people getting in their own way. So once she offered the list of the 3 brunch places, which is not heavy lifting, by the way, like, I understand if you have your preference, you want him to do all the work, that is valid, but you need to communicate that to him, because not every woman is exactly like you, believe it or not. I used to be like this when I had eating disorder-ish things going on. I wanted to pick restaurants just because I already knew the menu, I knew what was on it, whatever. People with allergies have that as well. Like, there are reasons why you might want to be the one picking where you go, also based on what's closer to you, what you've been to, blah, blah, blah. So I don't see it as an immediate slight of like, hey, you figure it out. It's literally based on your preference, also because you've only ever gone on one date. So how is he supposed to know, oh, she'd love this place? You don't know each other like that. So I don't see what the big deal is. But again, if you just communicate it, this would not be an issue. Like, at this point in your profile, say that you want a guy who makes the plans. Aside from that, you're the last person to not have responded. After he said the Dutch A or whatever, you didn't respond to that. So you're the one who ghosted, and you're expecting him to double or triple text you so you respond? Are we 5? What's the big deal? It's funny to me because she seems like a very no bullshit woman, but a lot of the bullshit in the way is self-imposed. This is adding on to my fears with dating because truly, who has the time for this time? Like, I'm tired and I'm not even going on the date.
Oh, when I didn't hear back last night about a reservation or anything concrete, I made plans for this afternoon. You cannot, for a second date, try and make plans the morning of. Even less than 24 hours. Like, your girl is busy. We are not sitting around waiting for you to reach out. Goodbye. And so what is his response? Okay, cool. He, I think, got the point. But either way, I was like, this has to be like one of the like laziest attempts at putting a second date together. Like, bro, second date, what are you doing? You missed out is what happened. Sorry.
I feel like I'm missing something because, yeah, it's a second date. He asked you if there's somewhere you'd like to go. You could have just said 1. You said 3. It seems like he was interested in one of them. You didn't respond saying if you had a preference. You didn't respond at all. Then he follows up the next day to again get a response out of you, and you're offended, and so you say that you made plans, which I don't even know if you did. I'm just confused. I think this is messy. It's not the end of the world, obviously, but in the context of someone who's obviously clearly looking for someone to the point that you got a matchmaker, so it is important to you, why are you putting all these silly things in the way? Relationships are difficult enough as it is, let alone if you have this kind of tomfoolery afoot. Truly not. But anyway, one thing I will say, and this was very much my vibe when I was 15, is that there are some people who almost on purpose try to put roadblocks in the way of things that are working fine as far as I can see, in order to see how far someone's willing to go for you. And like I said, that was me at 15, and very quickly most people realize that life is hard enough as it is. Don't make things harder for yourself. Don't, especially on the second date, turn it into this whole ordeal. Like, to set up a second date, do you really need it to be this difficult? And the thing I'd also want to say is, again, voice your preferences to him. But worst comes to worst, pick a place you're going to brunch, set up the brunch, and when you're there, you can literally tell him, hey, in the future, I really like when men plan everything out. I like having things reserved the day before. Just tell them. Like, why does it have to be this whole fucking thing? And the saddest part is this could have been a person who's good for you. You just have different habits about certain things. That's normal. You're not gonna meet your exact copy, and if you did, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't like them. I know I would not want a copy of me coming to a date with me. Anyway, so there was this other person she was dating. You don't need to know the whole history there because I don't even know the whole history there. It's not necessary. This video was so interesting to me because it seems a little bit delulu, I will say.
Another rejection story, and no, I am not excited to share this one, and I might cry because I was so excited about this guy. Let's get into it. This was a 4th date with a great guy, and not just like dinner. This was literally like a 15-hour date, preceded by a 3rd date that was about 10 to 15 hours. So we had been spending a lot of time together. Communication was on point. We had talked about making future plans of like, let's go on this trip, let's go to this concert, whatever.
I don't want to be a massive buzzkill, but first of all, what are you doing for 10 to 15 hours on a date? Like, I can understand if you did like a day trip, like if you went to Disneyland or something, that's a long time, right? But what are you doing on these 10 to 15 hour dates? First of all, I would like to know. Also, because if I don't know someone, I don't really think I'm going to be committing that time to them on a third date. I don't know, maybe that's just me. I guess it really depends on how much you talk before the dates, but it seems like she meets up with them immediately. When I met my husband on Tinder, just because I'm a little bit paranoid, I talked to him for 3/4 months before we ever met in person, because you don't know who the fuck you're talking to. Like, truly, absolutely not the one to get kidnapped. So anyway, what are you doing for these long ass dates, first of all? Oh, also, I don't know how healthy it is to be talking about future plans that quickly. And again, I know some of it is said in jest. If you're talking seriously after 3 dates about a long-term, heavy-ass project like taking a trip together and where you'd want to go together, which is very different than both saying like, oh, I've always wanted to go to Japan, that'd be fun if we went together, whatever. If you're actually going into the details, to me, I'm not saying that's a massive red flag, like run away immediately, but I do feel like anything that involves a certain level of commitment being asked very soon, maybe it's my commitment issues coming into play here, but I don't know if I'd like that, like at all. And in fact, a lot of this seems very intense out the gate.
During the date, I started to feel a cold sore coming on. And I said several times on the date, I think I'm getting a cold sore. Not thinking I had to explain what a cold sore was. I thought the general public, because 90% of people get cold sores, that I didn't need to explain what it was. Later that night, we were talking about it more, and I clarified because he didn't understand what a cold sore was. So I explained where it comes from, how it's very common, what category of viral diseases, I should say, that it's in, which is the herpes virus. Definitely, I could tell was freaking him out, and there was a lot of tension. And so I suggested that maybe he leave. Mind you, I should mention, this man had a lot going on. I'm not going to get into all of that, but a lot of things that I was like, okay, this is not something I would normally go for, but he's so nice and like so kind. Like our connection feels so good. So there were so many things going on that I was like, I feel like we have a strong connection. I'm going to look past it. And
now, maybe this is just me. I don't know why during a date you would need to mention multiple times that you have a cold sore. I think saying it once gets the message through regardless. I don't know if 90% of people get cold sores. I don't really think that matters necessarily. A lot of people don't deal with cold sores, so him not knowing all about it, I don't think is weird. Like, I've never had one. Some people have it. I don't know if it's genetically or like, I know some people in their families, it's just a thing. I don't know the history of cold sores, okay? Turning the cold sore thing into such a big deal is weird on her part, like I said, mentioning it that many times, regardless. Also, I do think it is a lack of class to come out here and say that there were a lot of things going on with him that would have been an issue for you, but that you looked past. Also because it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth to kind of be like, oh, there were a lot of things that I didn't necessarily like about him or that weren't my type, but I looked beyond that. Because really what it comes off as is that you're trying to frame yourself as this good person who, you know, went out of their way to look for the good in this person, even though they had all these things that were, you know, not necessarily right for you. And it's just like, if you had been the one rejecting him, would you have brought this up? Because it really seems like you were trying to find a reason why you probably would have rejected him as kind of a defense. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you get rejected, you say, oh, well, that person was a bitch anyway, or she was ugly, or blah, blah, blah. And it's really kind of transparent that you didn't actually, you know. If any of these things had been that big of a deal, you would have rejected them. So bringing them up at all is a lack of class. And why is that necessary to this rejection story to say?
No one is perfect. Everyone is flawed. He texted me this. He can't get past the cold sore situation, and that he wishes I had mentioned it earlier, which I explained to him. I didn't mention it earlier because it's a non-issue for most of my life. But I don't know if maybe he heard the word herpes and got scared, because that's a big, scary word. But also, to be unforgiving about one flaw in somebody is a giant red flag to me. I just really think like we need to destigmatize cold sores just because they're in the herpes category. It's no different than getting chicken pox, shingles, all of those things. It's just wild that people are uneducated about this and unforgiving about it when it's literally not the biggest deal in the entire world. One thing I will say is that this man treated me with more kindness, respect, and care than any other man I've dated has. So I will take from that this is the new standard and baseline going forward. So I do have gratitude for that.
I'm not really sure how to say this in a nice way. I tend to think that the cold sore was not the problem. I have a lot of difficulty in believing that this kind man that you are so grateful for and is the new standard for your next dating endeavors, I have a very hard time thinking that he draws the line at cold sores. Let us open the possibility to this guy is a superficial dumbass. Is that possible? Yes. Based on her own conclusions, though, he's not. So I tend to think that the cold sore was simply an excuse. And that's not me insulting this lady. I definitely don't feel like we'd get along, and I don't think we have the same vision of things. But I definitely feel like there's more to it than just that. And realistically, by the way this is framed, these 10 to 15 hour dates that you've been going on, if he actually really liked you and the connection was so there, I really doubt the cold sore is where we draw the line. Whether he knew what a cold sore was or not, he could have Googled it at home if it really freaked him out. Even as a hypochondriac myself, we all have different hang-ups, whatever. I just don't really see a reality where the cold sore is the issue. Again, like I said, her saying that he had a lot going on, implying that he had flaws or like maybe a past, whatever it is, I think was very much in relation to what she said at the end, being like, oh, to not, get past this one flaw I have. It sounds very defensive, so that's exactly what I expected. But you guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. I tend to not think she's a bad person. I just think the way she comes across is not great. And I say that myself as someone who's often categorized as aggressive, which may be true in terms of how I speak sometimes, it just is what it is. So I get that to an extent, and I think that there's also sometimes the expectation for women to be subdued to a degree, especially on dates. So I think that could be part of it, but in her particular position, it seems like to me as an outsider that she's always kind of calculating in the sense of like, there's a scorecard you have at the end of your date where it's like every time you say something, it'll be in like one category or another. It always feels like she's waiting for you to fuck up. That's the vibe I got. And like I said, could be entirely wrong. But anyway, you guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.